Yesterday, I was talking to Guru and telling him that Travis Kalachnik wrote the code for Uber, which has been much referred to in the past 2 days, sitting in a beach in Trivandrum called Varkala. So it's kind of a poetic justice that we have this conference also happening in Trivandrum, where we can sort of hope to reverse the trend and set things right. So I have with me here a very illustrious panel of experts. So I wouldn't be standing much in the way of their interaction with you. We'll go into the lightning format instead of the moderated dialogue as mentioned in the program book. So everybody will get 7 minutes to speak. After 6 minutes, we have the wonderful timekeeping machine that's in operation, and they stick to it very religiously. So 7 minutes is what you'll get to share about your experiences from the immense experience that you have about the Kerala digital economy and the cooperative sector. So I would like to start with Jayasankar Prasad, sir, if you don't mind. He is right now with DC School of Business, but has been with Kerala Startup Mission and interacts a lot with youth and students. So plenty for him to share on this.
Good evening. My name is Jayasankar. I work with startups and have been with the IT department of the government for quite some time. So have been part of some of the decisions which have been taken in this area. Quickly, I was just going through what I'll talk about and why the topics that I'm going to talk about are relevant in a cooperative or a collective philosophy or a theme, a conference that's happening. Now, from a platform, I've been listening to a lot of good arguments, speeches, and statements made on a platform economy and what they're doing for the workers in that economy. So coming from the IT sector, I think the previous speaker in the last panel had talked about the heterogeneity of workforce. So I would like everyone to understand that even the IT industry as per se, or the platform economy that we speak about, is a very heterogeneous industry. We have been using a common terminology for all of them, but then you have, at what level do you call them a worker, or at what level you call them a supervisor kind of stuff. So keeping that as a statement, I'll go into cite a small example which we did to create internet awareness in the state. This was done in 2002 when early days of internet in this part of the world, and even computers for some. What was done was a model where a very loosely bound network of entrepreneurs were asked to build up a citizen service center. And this was being slightly regulated by a government. So regulation and then cooperativism doesn't go much together, but then this is required because of the inherent things in the IT or the digital world. And also, this was e-governance services being delivered by all these citizen service centers. Now, what this did is, you had taken away a lot of overheads of a corporate-driven citizen service centers. So there were, I don't want to name them, but there were greater corporate-driven CSCs, as we call them, citizen service centers across India at that point of time, in much more established IT hubs. But all of them failed. There were government agencies trying to do it, they failed. But what did not fail is this network of entrepreneur-led citizen service center, what we call as Akshaya. And the more important part of it is for every 3,000 family, one person from the locality was identified. He was identified by the local representative, and he was identified through the local administration. And government only gave a common branding, it gave a common pricing so that the end consumers are not taken for a ride. And then they also ensured that there is a minimum sustainability. And depending on how enterprising the Akshaya owner was, he would do much more businesses related to it, and he would add on to it or diversify it, and it went on. The Akshaya still works. It's been taken as a model by the government of India, And the whole CSC model of Government of India has been modeled on this particular thing. So different stakeholders, I would think that this is one of the reasons why even when we talk about end user or producer, whatever be the category of cooperativism, but then you need to have a element of regulatory support under that. It can't be totally left open. So Akshaya example for me is like one of the greatest initiatives, and this movement actually later helped us when we were looking at rolling out government services across the state. And the second is, this is a much beaten topic here in the last 2 days. So the employee-employer relationships, you might have your own definitions of it. We might be arguing on that. The laws would be coming in, but it's still complex. It's complex. Why? Because there's no one authority. There's no one person. Like, is it just the driver who does it? Is it a borrowed vehicle? I think a taxi is not the right thing, but I'll recall an example of a startup which went into a hyper-local a platform, which was like digitalizing local shops which were run by small collectives. Now, do you call this guy as a owner of this platform and then be responsible for all the things? Is a much smaller startup, is just attempting to create digital thing. And today, if you go into any platform, the first statement he would say is that of a risk aversion, which says that I'm only an electronic digital platform. I do not provide the service. I'm only a platform. I'm not an agent in that service offer and delivery. The service offer is made by somebody, the delivery is taken by somebody. I'm not a party to it. I only provide the technology platform. And that's what all the VCs look at when they look at platforms. Anyway, so what I'm saying is a small hyperlocal startup had to actually failed. Why? Because some of the small self-help groups who were producing small items could not consistently provide the quality and quantity. Now, the moment you platformize it and you talk about scale, you're talking about a large mass, which is a critical mass so that somebody sees a business out of it, a commercial outcome on that. And when I think some of these things that we said are very contradictory to each other also. And that is why when we talk about platforms, employee-employer relationship, it's far more complex than any law or any simple solution can put towards it. One of the areas which I would again say, which is happening very well now, is we formed a skill collective. Now, why is it interesting? Because there are enough training institutes around. The skill collective was called Mueller. And it's interesting because all the companies in Technopark, which we has a park here, which runs all the IT companies, they realize that they are short of talent. Now, it's a common interest to train talent, not because they wanted to improve the capability of students, but they might want to do it. And now, you have a cooperative competition. That is, you collectively train the talent so that you can get them and become deployable straight away. Whereas the colleges like to be part of it. Why? Because they want their faculty and students to be more trained and capable. Industry is, of course, interested. Government is interested because it wants its student strengths to be augmented. So every player is into it for it. So it's a multi-cooperativism that is running around in these kind of steps. And that is what makes it in a large, complex situation. If I get more time, I'll speak a few more words on it. Otherwise, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for nicely drawing the trajectory from Akshaya centers all the way to Mueller, which is pretty much what we covered in the last couple of decades. Now, talking about trajectories and experience, next we'll move on to Sarada ma'am. Who has had incredible experience with Kudumbashree, NRLM, and now she's the additional chief secretary for the local self-government. So over to you, ma'am.
Thanks. I would like to start from the collective in Kerala, because there was this question also in the earlier session as to whether it is a strength of the collective is a prerequisite for bringing well-enabled cooperatization, cooperative engagement in resilience, building that solidarity of digital resilience. So the collectives that I'll be talking about are two. One is Kudumbashree, of course, with which I have been associated for quite some time. And this is an organization which carries about 60% of the families of Kerala through its women in a community organization sponsored by government. So that's Kudumbashri. So which obviously means that we have the opportunity of huge outreach. We also have the opportunity of huge empowerment. There is always, of course, the danger of state control and elite capture of the institution. So these are all things that we have been grappling with and trying to work out, negotiate ways in which empowerment can happen without capture. The second institution that I would be, collective that I'd be talking about, perhaps collective would not be the right word, but that is the local government. The local governments of Kerala. I'm talking about the village governments and the municipal governments. And these have been centers where you have all kinds of collectives coming together. You've got federations of agricultural farmers coming in, you've got the local cooperative banks coming in, you've got the SEG federations, the Kudumbashri federations coming in, you have taxi drivers organizations coming in. So there is this entire local, hyper-local networks that all get assimilated at the level of the local government. And the work of the local government is actually to work through them and with them and support them as well. So with these two in the background, what is it that we have been trying to do in Kerala in recent times? So one of the things I would point out is that we have been looking at localization of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is a conversation that is going on at the national level, but believe me, it started in Kerala. And it started in Kerala by also saying, by looking at data and the fact that data tends to be something that you centralize and make sense of it only at a central level. However, the hyper-local and the local are very critical too for that data to change. Therefore, there's got to be an understanding of data at the local level. And using that data, there's also got to be goalposts and sustainable development targets that the local is able to set. So this has been something that we have been at, and which has also come up with some interesting things. One is, when you're looking at ending poverty, Kerala now is regarded as having only less than 1% multidimensional poverty. But that 1%, that cohort is very difficult to identify. There's been a process through which they have been identified. They are now put on a digital MIS, and the local government is supposed to track individual family needs and keep recording that. And the community network is again engaged with the responsibility of looking to see whether the entitlements that have been identified for these extremely poor, extremely marginalized people are actually coming in. And so that would be, it's a process of community monitoring by digital enablement, because the app has been created, centrally created, but the application with the entry of it is done locally, and the assessment, evaluation, and monitoring is also done locally. So this is something which just to indicate where we are going with this. Another intervention of government has been also that to give, we're looking at it as e-governance, that how is it that individuals and communities can be able to access government service, and the idea is without having to enter the government office where corruptions, so it is all about reducing corruption, improving efficiency, improving the time, turnaround time, etc. So for this, there have been all sets of applications which have come in, by which services are now provided on an online platform. But the interesting thing is, particularly with local governments where you're dealing with poor people, then the question is, unless they know how to access, be digitally enabled, how do you get there? So, and we had a very interesting mobilization that happened in a panchayat, in a village quite near in Trivandrum district, which is called Pulampara. And what they did is they collaborated with the university, and with students, and they came out with an entire Pulampara becomes digitally literate. Kerala was a pioneer in Saksharata, in literacy, and now Kerala wants to be pioneer in digital Saksharata, in digital literacy, taking from the lesson of Pulampara, where you had the local government, the local communities, and students and scholars from nearby universities coming together to ensure that that everyone, including people who did not have access, who did not have phones or smartphones, were still able to decode the digital. And by that, there was a very clear set of, can you read WhatsApp messages, can you download apps, can you access your a bank account online. So these were all things that they have been enabled to do. And by that, what we are also talking about, therefore, is that digital enablement is very important to reach the last mile. With the women in the center, because we are also looking at feminist economies. So with women in the center, this also becomes an interesting question of, in the digital divide, where do the women stand? And by the very fact that this huge organization of Kudumbashree and its women are the ones who are being trained to do these things, are the ones who are part of the capacity building of local communities, are involved in multiple activities where digital application is involved. We've now created auxiliary groups where they are supposed to, they do the digital surveys and assessments. So if there is any community-based survey that's got to be done, it is now done through Kudumbashree. So it is like automatically the women of Kudumbashree are also taking on that understanding of the digital in order to be able to take things forward. I will just end with Kudumbashree's ONDC, so the Open Network for Digital Commerce. Kudumbashree has now, baby steps, it has got onto this platform, and about 180 of its products are available from food and beverages, mostly masalas, etc. But as was, I think it was you Egyptian had mentioned, there are a lot of problems in handling that, and we would like to address that. I won't go into the details here. One last point is, Kerala wants to improve improve its local economic development, the involvement of local governments in this. And there we've been looking at what are digital, I mean, is it possible to actually have a framework where local aggregators could be identified, supported? Can we look at a local employer and an employee, a potential employee, bring them together, create an enabling framework where this can be taken through? We are in the early days yet, but we have come out with a policy. The local governments are finding it difficult to push that policy, but even then, that's where we are going with. And I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And that the comment about local economic development nicely segues into Ajit Matai. Can you please enlighten us on A-Hope and the paradigms with which you have set it up? Please discuss more about local economic development and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I had the privilege of coming here this morning and attended an entire session, which was truly enlightening, and especially the last session that I attended was extremely enriching. Now, when I start, I would like to relate to an article which had really had a big impact on me. It was by an author called Bruno Dorin, where he talked about the theory, practice, and challenges of agroecology in India. I think the takeaway from that article, and I think it reflects on everything that I heard today about the challenges of workers and platform cooperatives, is that unless we address employment in agriculture and in rural areas, we are going to get huge, as we are seeing today, huge migration into urban centers, and the only sink for employment is therefore your platforms, Uber drivers, whatever the services are. The supply far exceeds demand. So my first point is that unless India, and I think Kerala must lead, We've got these structures to make it happen. I strongly believe that the transformation of Kerala's rural sector would begin to have that very large impact that we're looking at. It was this inspiration. A hope is an acronym for aggregation of homestead produce and e-payment. What I haven't heard enough in the conversations today is about capital. And I'm not talking about fixed capital, I'm talking about working capital. Now, for cooperatives to work, and I had the privilege of working with Dr. Thomas Isaac for close to 7 years. We've co-authored 3 books. This is the last. We've got a few books here on Koi Kerala if anyone is really interested in it. I think it's a very detailed examination of the Koi sector, the cooperative movement, and the challenges. And what is exciting about it is that how enormously profitable the Koi sector is. Yet we choose to abandon it in Kerala today. I talked about the virtual cooperative ecosystem. We are creating a marketing platform called the Virtual Pavilion. And I think the most important point is what we call value chain financing. What we are getting rid of in this is what we are eliminating in the Blue Ocean Strategy term is called is we are eliminating the conventional definition of credit worthiness. That how much my CIBIL score does not define my credit worthiness. What we are doing is we are redefining it and saying that, are you a part of a cooperative? Are you a part of a value chain? If you have been a reliable member of the value chain, you are credit worthy. Now, what does this mean in terms of money? And we are working in Wayanad. Every cooperative, so we are looking at a small cooperative. The amount of money that banks are legitimately willing to lend into the cooperative runs into the tune of around 70 crores. Or if I take it as 100 crores would be around 10 million euro would be that amount. It's a very significant amount that can get to the bottom of the pyramid. In Tamil Nadu, we look after the MSME departments. With an investment of 100 crores, which translates around 10 million euro, I am able to design a program that releases 3 billion euros into the bottom of the pyramid. That's the scale that we can actually leverage. I think if we manage to get that money to the bottom of the pyramid, a lot of the things that we have heard today about the challenges that the cooperatives are facing, that the cooperatives cannot actually operate financially, a lot of those issues can be addressed. So these are really the essential 2 points that I have. Have I overrun my time? Okay. So I will just touch on, okay, I'll just touch on one last point is, and this leads to LED, local economic development. While Kerala has done extremely well in LSC, we have actually failed, I would almost say, in local economic development. The government cannot run local economic development. It can be a facilitator of local economic development. We need to get hundreds and thousands of micro entrepreneurs together in a format that is not limited by the institution of the cooperative, but can actually come together in the spirit of true entrepreneurship. With that, I will close my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the innovative ideas that I hope is coming together with. Now we move on to Dr. Sonia George, who has 2 decades of experience with SEWA. And let's hear about the digitalization.
So in continuation with the conversation happening here, maybe the experience that I would like to share stands different in the sense, SEWA, as all of you might have now acquainted with, means SEWA has a different history of organizing women workers in the informal sector. So basically we are a trade union of women workers. So that is the base where we start our experiments with collectivization, not for as organizing women members as part of the unions, but collectivization for better wages and better working conditions. So these are the 2 main goals that we are trying to promote in terms of collectivizing women workers. And forming collectives or forming cooperatives of women workers, that was, SEWA is known for its, these works, for like maybe for the last 40 years that SEWA is involved, and especially in Kerala also has a 40 years experience of collectivizing women, where we started our work through collectivizing domestic workers, the service sectors. So from there, we have grown to both service sector and producer cooperatives and collectives. And maybe post-pandemic, have really made us to think about, how digital economy or platform could be a better platform or a better opportunity for women to be part of this, greater capital and political economy, growing together as part of, the post-COVID resilience mechanisms that we are trying to build up. And that is where I would like to share few experiences that we have encountered within the process. Collectivization in itself includes a lot of challenges, as in the sense, maybe we have to start with the patriarchal nature of the society, that that is the root, or that is the base of building, that is the main hurdle of building any such collectivization from a rights perspective. I would like to bring the rights perspective into the mainstream discourse, because for examples, for most of these women workers, maybe we can still say that when we talk about this much of organizations that have been happen as part of Kudu Ministry or SEWA or whatever other forms of collectives that have been followed, we still struggle a lot to achieve that forms of even in terms of rights, in terms of minimum wages for the women workers. So that is one of the biggest struggles that we face when we have capital investments in terms of cooperatives, of collectives of women. How do we ensure support to the workers who are involved in it, or to the livelihood formations that have been processed throughout this collectivization? So that is one of the first steps that we have to think about, ensuring these rights that are very important in the process. And the second thing is, while we go support these processes, the engaging social and political atmosphere of the state, that is also very important in terms of talking towards or working in terms of more larger collaborations with larger cooperatives, with larger collectives and larger trade unions and other mechanisms that enable for a sustainable livelihood search. That is very important for us. And that is where we also fail in terms of sustainability of the cooperatives. That is one of the biggest issues that we are engaging with. For example, we work with the most informal women workers. It's not means many of them may have only very basic education, and they are traditional informal workers like fish workers or bamboo workers, and the service sector, the care or domestic sector is the only one that is separated from the traditional kind of industries that we have been talking about. So access to resources, that is one of the biggest issues that we still face in terms of capital and in terms of commons. Both works together while we address the collectivization and the and passing it through the platform. That is still an example. For example, maybe I would like to bring an example in terms of access to resources in the sense for a traditional, maybe one example, we have started a fish workers cooperative, a kind of platform from post-COVID. And, as they are traditional fish workers and they were trying to get it into a platform and start selling their fish. But very soon, very highly capital invested group of men have captured the entire customers of that particular group of women, through using digital technologies itself, so that these women were forced to stop their collective formation. They are using the platforms, and then from there onwards they are afraid of depending on platforms, depending on the collectivization that that's for on the larger sense, losing that trust in the form of platforms that are being created. Maybe many issues are there in terms of hand holding, in terms of supporting the people, in terms of the future of collectivization and future of uh, platform in that sense, because we live in a very fragile world where individuals are coming into the markets, they are capturing the markets, or with in relation to corporates or domestic services. But where are these collectives finding a future in that way to come together to form that or get into that confidence and to get involved with a more enriched form of access to resource, to capital, to collectivization, and to ensure they are getting minimum wages, they are getting proper social protection, they are getting proper environmental and work mobility in the sense or in terms of public transport, in terms of public marketing avenues, enterprises, support from the state. These are all matters that have to be discussed in the long run when we talk about linking cooperatives or collectives with a platform in that way that they could enrich their experience or they could enrich their livelihood experience as women who are know the key what you call the breadwinners of the family. That is where where the Kerala model has to look forward and to concentrate more amidst all the challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia, for bringing up that example about fisherwomen and the app that has come in place of it, which is a classic example that all of us are aware of and we can relate to. Now I move on to Professor Asharaf, who is somebody whom I am most familiar with in terms of his work. So he was quite excited when Madam mentioned Pulambara Panchayat, and to DWMS as well. This is somebody who is very deeply in technology, and I wish he was here yesterday when we had a lot of discussions about what needs to go in the back end of technologies that were being built. So to you, Dr. Ashraf.
Thank you, Arun. I'll share my experience in 3 avenues where I was personally involved. The first being what Sarada Madam mentioned. The first digitally literate panchayat, Gram Panchayat in India, digital Pulampara, and the subsequent one, digital Kilimanur, which is the currently happening one. So when this has happened as a collective, and in the digital Pulampara experiment, it was more of a collective trying to do a campaigning on digital. Content was created with the help of students, volunteers, startup entrepreneurs, and many others. I mean, the collective had all sort of people out there, but the structure was grossly missing. Meaning, how do you keep them? And the numbers were small. I mean, we were below. We had only below 500 people to be trained. And when we scaled this up to digital Kilimanur, which is a collection of 8 Gram Panchayat, and the surveying resulted in identification of close to 400, I think 40,000 people to be trained in the age group from 10 to 70. And how do we sustain the interest in the collective? That was a primary concern. So we wanted to create this collective, and the first step was identification. And how do you identify the right set of people to be trained, and how do you define the notion of digital literate? And that's where we could identify people like, I mean, I was involved from the university side, the digital university side, and then we could define what is digital literacy. And we looked at what government of India defines. It was primarily, I mean, it's mostly around digital education, but we wanted only literacy. So we defined what literacy is all about. The moment we realized that, we have approached the startup entrepreneurs from the collective to build an application. And the application was built free of cost, again, by the collective itself. And the collective created, the entrepreneurs created the application, and that was rolled out to the Kudumbasri workers to do a survey. Again, a collective, again, the collective taking up the responsibility of identification. Beyond that, we wanted content to be created. University students and the professors pitched in, define what should be the content and the form factor of the content, what should be the pedagogy, and how do you engage with people to make sure that they are included in the digital space, digital literacy program. So that was, again, we got volunteers from the government ecosystems, which is, I mean, we had IKM, CEDIT kind of organization under Kerala government. They could help us with content creation. And the moment we had content creation, again we went back and asked, like, how do you quantify? I mean, how do you measure that these people are actually digital literate? Right? We have to deal with a group of 40,000 plus people. So we define that aspect, and we had mechanisms created again through the entrepreneurial, the startup community, and then we have started this campaign. So at every step of the campaign, we realized that yes, we are progressing. So the collective could sustain it, and there are multiple aspects to this collective. One being, how do you keep their interest in the long run? We said yes, this is currently a digital literacy program which can lead to potential digital education program. And whom do we educate? We need to educate, and these two opportunities that we have addressed. This is Pulampara as well as the digital Kilimanur. These are rural parts of Trivandrum. And how do you keep the youngsters engaged in this entire exercise? We said this can continue provided the collective come together again and initiate processes which will allow the youngsters to look at digital education as an opportunity and possibly dream about the digital world. As Professor Trevor was mentioning, I mean, can we create institutions of the kind, DAOs and all that, right? Distributed autonomous organizations, things of that kind. So we were exciting people on that space. And so far, I think 6 out of 8 Gram Panchayat in Kilimanur has already announced that they are digitally literate, and 2 is in another month's time they'll be announcing it. And I think this is the first digitally literate block panchayat that's going to happen in India. And Pulambara was the first Gram Panchayat, and this will be the first digital block panchayat. And this probably, as Madam said, is going to be the statewide opportunity. That's about digital inclusion. The second is, how do you utilize the power of collective to create digital public good? This is 2018. Post-flood, Kerala floods. We could collect, and we wanted to create opportunities for people. And post-flood, many of our citizens lost their primary certificates, including their ration card, SSLC certificate, whatever, their educational certificates, and many others, which will give them access to the welfare measures that the government can release. But they don't have anything. It's all lost, right? And the data, and this was discussed at government level, and we wanted this to be created. This cannot be a government project run for months or whatever. It has to happen immediately. We could identify 10 volunteers, 7 days. We could integrate all the digital infrastructure of 15 departments of Kerala government. And this infrastructure was created and handed over to government, North Paravur in Ernakulam district. This is piloted in a matter of 7 days, after the Chief Minister endorsing that this platform can be used for the public thing. And this was benefit. I mean, the benefit of the platform went for 50,000 citizens across Kerala, and the same is available to the IT department of Kerala, and it was again used in 2019. And how do you create that enthusiasm? Yes. Thank you. And just one more opportunity on digital education. This is the story of Kerala Blockchain Academy. This is 2016. We were talking about blockchain, and where everybody was talking about Bitcoin. And we wanted knowledge, know-how in this ecosystem. We want to create this ecosystem where the blockchain ecosystem in Kerala, where the knowledge is scarce. Nobody knows what this animal is all about, right? So the only way in which we can create such an ecosystem in Kerala is connect to the collectives across the globe. We reached to Blockchain Education Network globally, the Linux Foundation. Kerala created, and it started with 3 PhD students from my lab, connected to 50 engineering colleges across Kerala. These got connected to the global ecosystem Blockchain Education Network, and we created content. And now we have trained more than 32,000 people across 63 countries. And 30% of programs are completely free. You don't pay for it. And many of the volunteers who were a part of this content creation activity and the updation activity are now owning the ecosystem. They are employees, and they run the ecosystem. Thank you. Thank you all for my side.
Thank you, Dr. Asharaf, for bringing out those glaringly good examples. Now we'll come full circle to the academic in the house from Jayasankar, sir. We have moved back in. So Professor Simy Joy, who founded the Center of Excellence for Social Innovation. Co-founded, okay. Co-founded the Center of Excellence for Social Innovation at IIM, and has immense international experience. So would you like to share your thoughts?
I feel like an imposter here. You do the hard work and I get to comment on that, right? not really fair, but I'll try. So what I will talk about is a little bit based on my research experience, lot in Kerala and in other parts of India. Not quite cooperatives, all of them. Not all platform kind of technologies either. But these are mainly organizational forms, community-based organizations, micro-enterprises, social enterprises that operate on democratic principles, working towards advancing social goals committed to their members. And they have experimented with different kinds of technologies for improving their own efficiency, operational efficiency, in some cases market access. So what I'm going to share is some of my observations, learning from their perspective. So these are the users of the technology. So in the morning we heard about how you design technology, the challenges involved in that, data, the policy aspect and all that. This is the other end of the spectrum, the last mile user. And I know nothing about technology development. I know nothing about policy. All I know is, okay, you have presented me with this technology. Let me see if this works for me. It might not. So this is the learning from them. So one first question is, here we are talking about two things. One, an organizational form, cooperative. The other side is platforms, as a digital technology that is being made available to the cooperative for their effective performance. I'll be the devil's advocate here. Take a step back. Do we need either of them? So if I'm a user, what am I here for? I want autonomy. I want my well-being taken care of. Essentially, my income in a lot of these circumstances. Do I need a cooperative for that? Do I need technology for that? So in a lot of cases, we see micro enterprises, micro entrepreneurs, a lot of women in Kudumbashree itself going for Instagram and WhatsApp. They are going for the easiest option. So the user is going for a design light option, both organizationally as well as technologically. So we talked a lot about how do we fight Uber and Ola, right? And everybody's trying to make different platforms. And people who are working in that space, I'm sure you know, I've come across this in Bangalore, where I partly live. There are networks, informal networks of taxi drivers. It's there in every part of Bangalore. They operate on Telegram. They operate on Instagram. And they operate on phone too. My husband, who doesn't use a fast smartphone at all, find it exciting. And they can talk all the South Indian languages plus Hindi. You talk to a human, and they take care of your business. And they share their profits among themselves. And I'm sure there are challenges in that informal network too. There will be hierarchies, there will be power struggles, all that will be there. But it's a subversive movement that they're using available technology to them, and it is making this countering happen, not to the scale of defeating Ola and Uber, but it's still happening. So one is being design light for the user. Otherwise, what is the incremental advantages of being a member of a cooperative? Or what is the incremental advantage of being on a platform? If we can't answer that, the user doesn't want it. So that's my takeaway one. Second is, how can technology help you? It's definitely not a solution for all the problems. One, we have to be very clear. So it's not everything is Uber, Ola kind of scenario. So there are a number of community-based organizations in Kerala as well as other parts of India that deliver drinking water for the local population. Some of them do it at a smaller scale. Some of them do thousands of families. They supply drinking water. You need to have operational efficiency. So there is this group in Nenmeni in Wayanada. They have been excellent in creating their own technology. They developed a software with a small company in Thrissur. The company is no longer there. It was so small that it could not survive. It works for them. They have it for billing. They have it for complaint registering, everything. It works amazingly well. And the company tried to launch the same thing for similar groups in other parts of Thrissur and Idukki. Did not work. What happened is, organizationally, the others did not have processes in place. They tried to imitate the processes, but in their local context, that process did not work. So this is even in Kerala. So when we are talking about replication and scaling, this is something that we have to keep in mind. It might not always work. So to what extent do you have the basic processes clear? Technology can only overlay on that. Lesson number 2. Now, 3, technology. Okay, one part is efficiency of operations, and the second part is, to what extent does that really empower your people, the agency? So that's where I've done some studies with the Kudumbashree micro entrepreneurs. You mentioned the platforms that were created. So we did a comparative study of that platform. So there was one of the major commercial platform. I'm not naming that. The second one was the Kudumbashree developed one, and third was a hyperlocal one. So the bigger platform told that Kudumbashree women, they cannot operate on the platform directly. You have to put your wares in the Kudumbashree office, and the Kudumbashree office has to deal with that. You removed them from your customer. So what is the market access you're talking about? They're not getting feedback from the customer. And then the second one, we have to also deal with the challenges, because a lot of these women don't have smartphone access. So it became a via media where the Kudumbashree office will take the phone, but the order fulfillment will be done by the women. So then 1 degree of separation. But then how can we develop system where the full agency can be given to the user? That's another challenge. The last one, technology or organizational process cannot solve everything. Market access, a big challenge in India is the logistics. So you have the product, it's advertised, your customer wants it, but you don't have a reliable logistics measure. So I'll give you an example of a private platform that was created for cooperative societies. They operate all over in India. I place an order, so this particular bedsheet has to come from interior Andhra. They're not getting, there's something going on locally there. They're not getting a logistic partner to, I wait, because I'm a supporter of this organization, I wait for 3 months, they're still not able to get that. But it's a real challenge. And that bedsheet was really beautiful too, but I did not get it. So this is a challenge, and Kudumbashree women also talk about that. So Kudumbashree has tied up with the postal department, but then the packaging gets very expensive. So there are these other aspects, and also the competition. So how do you get visibility for your platform amongst all other things? So that's where the capital comes in. Who's going to fund? So these are the real challenges in how we can make this really useful for the final user and make it sustainable. Thank you.
I'm told we have 5 minutes, so probably we can go once across the stage and get some final remarks from everybody.
No, I think, ma'am, I think I'll start with your last question as to which answers your first question as to why a cooperative. Because one person can't swing it around, so they need a collective people who can then collectively create a mechanism which can swing it around. So that is, so your first question of why a cooperative, why a platform is answered by the last thing, because individually they'll not be able to do it. So that's one. Second, because I've seen this very closely working with the Skilling Collective. All of them are into it. The companies, the various stakeholders at different levels are into it for their own reasons. But put together, we have a learning platform which enables the learner to pick and choose his liking, very democratized, access to everyone, a free platform, and built by voluntary work. And today everyone comes in to plug into it. Again, you have the job providers, you have the freelance workers, everyone coming into it, because you know that a very gamified experiential platform for learning gives you a person who is skilled enough to be deployed. So that is one reason which I would like to just add on to it. Is it 1 minute? I should get moment more. Yeah, that's what you should. Now, the second thing on the need of a government regulation, which I often when we put it, it comes out as a contradictory statement, because the example of Akshayas, which I keep keep quoting everywhere as a Kerala model because it's very loosely regulated but very effective in delivery. So I think this is what I'd like to add on at this point of time, and then let's keep it.
So we live in an era of distributed ownership and decentralized control, and for the collective to come together, there has to be a reason, and the reason has to be defined, and that's where it starts, and there has to be a reason for sustenance. Participation is one, and how do you ensure participation, and that becomes the key. Thank you.
I'm just taking in the points that you said. Yes, I see, the collective is larger than the individual, but getting that together and creating that sense of purpose, that's the role of the institution builders. So to what extent that has been effectively done in different settings. So in some settings it works effectively and in some settings it doesn't. But there are lessons to be taken from that. So, thank you.
I think the question of where does the state come in as enabler if you have decentralized? One of the things that I believe is very important to understand is that there's got to be enough socio-political capability within the communities to be able to access and use technology responsibly. And how does that get created? Does the state have a role in enabling that? Is also something that we would, because in the state of Kerala has actually in everything that it is, in its policy, in the way it is worked, it has acted as an enabler of the political economy. It has acted as an enabler of voice. And that voice can also be something that is used to criticize the state. But voice is important. It is that voice which would enable or allow for technologies to come in as productive and supportive mechanisms.
I think one of the learnings that means from these discussions also is that realizing internal limitations with respect to the external obstacles, that is very important in terms of the transition. And that is what we have been learning and recognizing in the process, because means, as Simy was saying, when it comes to women, very simple forms of technology, they always prefer, and that has its possibilities and limitations. But how do we cope with that in terms of looking at the larger market and also the capital that is involved in it? That is very much important for us to learn towards the next step. So that is something that, and from there, again, the question I would like to bring back, the forms of that is more important to us, than individuals, the collectives, the questions of democratic leadership, democratic decision making, bringing that collective more viable and also sustainable. And that is very important for us when we travel across platforms and cooperatives. That is what is important. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the most stable form of governance, without doubt, is the local government. Local economic development, the narrative of it, needs to shift from poverty alleviation into prosperity. To do this, we need to get legitimate money to the bottom of the pyramid, legitimate money and not a dole. There's a big difference between running a business that is an enterprise that can demand money, that's bankable money, and receiving a dole. If there is prosperity at the bottom of the pyramid, I think we begin to start addressing issues like climate change. There's ownership of your local area, people will own it, and with that, we will create the transformation in climate change. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank all the panelists for sharing their thoughts and experiences. Thank you very much.